The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network.
The mind of Pat Popolzio is a wondrous thing. And for you Pack wrestling fans, you'll get to go inside the mind of the Skip each and every episode here on the Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast. Now, here's your host, NC State Director of Athletics Digital Communications, Ryan Reinhardt.
Welcome, wrestling fans, to a brand new episode of the Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast, where we cover all things associated with NC State Wolfpack Wrestling. I'm your host, NC State Director of Athletics Digital Communications, Brian Reinhardt, and here to break down the NC State program is the head coach of the Wolfpack, Pat Popolzio.
Good afternoon, Brian. Pat,
good to have you back. Seems like you got a little bit of a cold this week, but I powered through, so I'm just assuming that you will as well.
Yeah, I learned from you. We got to just tough it out and move forward. So, yeah, a little cold, but nothing that's going to stop us from making this happen.
Well, too much yelling at that last duel, I think. That probably contributed to it.
That and staying up too late at casino night this weekend.
Which we're going to get to. I say this every week in the open, but just another busy week of dual action for the NC State wrestling team. In this episode, we're going to recap the home win over Virginia, look ahead to a conference road action at Pitt this weekend, and visit with another former alum whose voice many of you fans are very familiar with. But first, a quick glimpse back to last week's episode. Pat, I think we got some great feedback from fans, as everybody's always excited to hear about the start of ACC action. But our special guest really brought it last episode, and I'm not just talking about the free gear he gave away, but Sam Spina is always a good interview, and it's good to see what he's doing post-college. I'm sure we introduced many people that are now in need of Spina's lawn care, so just tuck that one away till he owes us one.
Yeah, as Sam would say, he's crushing it.
We're going to crush it this episode. This is normally the part where I ramble on for a few minutes plugging our own stuff, but our special guest this week, he plugged all of his stuff so many times. I'm going to give our fans a week off, but our fans know they should always be subscribed to the Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast, and we're going to continue to give away free NC State wrestling gear next time we tape, which will be next week, for those that leave us a rating and review on iTunes. So subtle plugs, I think, is the key to the game here. But back to action on the mat. The Wolfpack returned to Reynolds Coliseum and improved to 12-1 on the season and 2-0 in ACC action with a 32-7 win over Virginia. For the second straight conference duel, the Pack won 8 of the 10 matches and also had 4 bonus point wins. So, Pat, before we dive into some of the action, it was an electric night inside Reynolds. You could tell the home crowd was anxious for some wrestling action, as that was the first home duel you guys had there since November.
Definitely. Very exciting crowd. I think you can definitely feel that energy. Our guys do when we're out there competing, and no better venue than being Reynolds right at home. And it's just a perfect venue to set up a wrestling mat out there, and it gets rowdy in there. So we need more of that. We got to continue to grow this. And, obviously we're on the road this week, but be right back here for three duels in a row, back to back.
Now, I normally start our recaps in the order of the matches they wrestled, but this week I have to switch it up. And how can we not start with the performance of redshirt freshman Tariq Wilson's win at 133? Wilson notched his first career-ranked win as he defeated returning All-American and number 5 Jack Mueller 9-4. A top 5 win is always impressive, but Wilson scored 3 takedowns, got a 2-point near fall in the third, and that was after he rode out Mueller the entire second period. For his efforts, he was the ACC Wrestler of the Week, the third Wolfpack wrestler to win that award this year. So, Pat, I mentioned last podcast Wilson was looking for his signature win. I would say this qualifies.
No question about it. That was one of the wins he needed to move forward in his career, to know that he can be one of the best guys in the country this year. I think he shows his ability, that he's capable of what he's doing out there, and his composure more than anything. He looks like a seasoned wrestler when he's out there competing, and that's what you need. To be a good program, your freshmen need to produce right away, and I feel like we got 2 of them right now. We're operating at a high level, and we're going to continue to grow off this, but that was definitely a great performance by him.
Now, the UVA duel started with a ranked matchup at 149. It was number 13, Bo Donahue, as he defeated number 3, Sam Crevis 11-6. UVA actually held the 6-4 lead in the third, but Bo got a takedown and a 4-point near fall with 52 seconds left for a huge 6-point move. Bo just loves to make it exciting with some of these late takedowns, especially in overtime. Maybe not for the coaches, but definitely for the fans.
Yeah, he definitely likes to make things close and exciting, and that match definitely wasn't going in our favor. Momentum was not on our side, and Bo kept his composure and attacked. And obviously, I think, the last minute of the match, a lot of times is the most important minute. And we definitely didn't come out ready to wrestle. And as the match went on, and I think we kind of got in rhythm and in sync on some things, that works to our advantage a little bit sometimes. And Bo capitalized on that, did a really good job of just staying to the plan and attacked, scored his points, and it's good to see because he's got a lot of great things in the works right now here in the last month of the season. He's doing a phenomenal job for us.
Another ranked matchup at 174. Number 19, Daniel Bullard, came away with an 8-2 win over number 25, Will Shaney. Bullard didn't have to take too many shots. He was just countering Shaney. Shaney got on his legs, but every time he did, Bullard turned it into his takedown, one in each period. Daniel came up a little bit short in that Duke duel, but this win has got to give him some confidence heading down the stretch.
You got to see that out there. As I think the week before, maybe a little disappointing performance for him, and he's a competitor, doesn't like to lose. So he definitely was motivated for this one because he wanted to, have a good match and obviously win, and he did that. But the pace that he wrestled and stay into his style and what he does best, he was able to do that and look really good out there. And we got to continue to grow on this because he keeps improving every time we get a chance to get him out there competing. He's going to get better and better. And I think his best wrestling's still in front of him. So it's good that we're getting this kind of experience right now.
And this is one wrestling term I love, but two hammers at the top of your lineup. Redshirt seniors Pete Renda and Michael Macchiavello both scored tech falls. Renda had 2 4-point near falls in the first period and ended his bat in the second, 18-3, while Mock scored 7 takedowns in the first, which was pretty impressive, and won 22-7. Pat, you said you like your guys to score a lot of points. These two got it done.
Absolutely. Both guys go out. Their styles might be a little different on how they score their points, but both guys like to put up points. And that's what I like right now. Pete Renda's going out and attacking and being aggressive. I think as we get later in the season, his excitement for competing goes up. So that's a good thing because it's what he's about, and some big duels for him coming up, big individual matches as time goes on here. And he's starting to come into his own, wrestling his best at the right time of the year, and that's what you need out of your guys right now. As far as Mock, that's probably some of the best wrestling we've seen from him, attacking and everything clicking, scoring points on a pretty solid kid that's had some decent results this year. And Mock scored, I think it was 5 takedowns in the first period, maybe.
It's 7.
7? Yeah, that's a lot of takedowns in the first period of a match because that's what you want to see of your guys is going out there. That means he's confident and he didn't wait to feel things out. He knew he was going to win and he knew he was going to dominate, and that's what he did. And sometimes it's hard for guys to do. A lot of times you see guys out there, they'll go out, take the first minute to see if they can get what they're looking for tie-ups or how they're going to score. But Mock didn't wait, and I think it was a good lesson for all of us to see. And I think our guys feed off each other, and as time went on, more and more guys are going to start doing that.
And wrapping up the duel, Kevin Jack scored a second period fall at 141. What was interesting about that bout, he already secured the tech fall win, but he stuck with the move, and the ref held off on blowing that whistle, and Kevin scored a pin. Kevin just really wanted that pin and 16 points at the end of the night.
Yeah, it comes down to bonus points, and yes, he had the tech fall, but right now you've got to be working to get pins. I mean, that's what our sport is about. That's the main goal and the main objective is to pin a guy. It's nothing personal to your opponent, but that's, we know what we're signing up for when we go out there to compete. And yeah, he had the tech fall. He could have let it go, but we're there to try and work to get that fall. Our guys are all being aggressive with it. And we know towards the end of the year, that's what we're going to have to get when we're at the national tournament. And I was happy to see him because I think in the past he would have just let that go and not tried to get that fall. And that's something, all 10 guys got to be working towards because that's what we're training to do. So I was happy to see that.
And this past weekend was also alumni night. Many former Wolfpack wrestlers were not only at the duel, but enjoyed casino night the very next night as it served as the fundraiser for the Wolfpack Wrestling Club. Pat, last time you teased us about Nick Woodstowski's giveaway that he donated, so tell us about that and how'd the night turn out overall?
Great event. It was great for our alumni to come back. I think we had a really good turnout coming for the match, guys that got recognized during intermission. So I was happy to see that, guys coming back. And you know, it means a lot to the guys that are here. They've all been through it. They've all wrestled here. They know what it takes to be successful on the mat and now post-college, what they're doing in their personal life. So their stories matter to our guys, and it was just great to have. Casino night itself, it's the best turnout we've ever had. I think we doubled our number from last year. We did a really good job gaining some more resources for our RTC, which is having a big impact on our program. So that was a positive. And I tell you what, the prizes keep getting better. Every year we do this, there's some bigger and better prizes out there. So it's fun to watch this thing grow. Nick Wiz, his donations went for pretty good. You know, every time I turned around, someone was putting a new number on the list. So that was good to see. So yeah, it was a great weekend overall, and reassuring to know that we got a lot of great support from the alumni and people that are associated with this program.
So aside from the dual win over Virginia, you also had 10 wrestlers, some backups and red shirts, that went over to Boone and wrestled in the Appalachian State Open. Of those, NC State brought home 2 first-place finishes, a second place and a third place. The Pac won titles at both 133 and 184. Jamel Morris crushed the competition, going 4-0, all tech fall wins, and outscored his opponent 68-4 in winning the 133 title. And Nick Greenan cruised to the title at 184, getting tech fall wins in the semis and the championship bout. But one person I wanted you to talk about was sophomore Thomas Bullard, twin brother of Daniel, who saw his first action this year at the App State Open. He placed second at 165. Pat, last year you pulled Thomas out of redshirt, and he turned into an NCAA qualifier at 157. Your plan was to redshirt him this year. He missed some action earlier in the year, but what have you seen out of him in the practice room, and ideally, where does he fit into next year's lineup?
We've had, fortunate enough to have a lot of depth here right now, and I think, you said it, guys are going out, Morris winning the weight class and Renan, so, we're starting to get that where we got guys behind guys that are, whether they're redshirting or just getting valuable experience that can win this tournament. That's what you need to be a successful program right now. And, as far as Bullard goes, it was one, it fit into our lineup last year. It just so happened, where we were at and in our long-term plan of what we were going to do with everybody being at the right weight at the right time. So it worked out that we could use him last year. And then this year we knew, Hammond being a fifth-year senior and where he's at, we want to give him his opportunity to finish out his career here at NC State, and no better time for Thomas to move up and obviously get that experience he needs during the redshirt year to grow into being our 65-pounder next year. And it's going to work out good because we're going to need, big shoes to fill for 184 with Pitt moving on. So Renan's doing a great job. He'll jump right in at 84 next year, and Thomas Bullard at 65. So, those guys will move on, but we're going to have guys that are going to be ready to compete right behind them and make a name for themselves. And that's what's going to take to continue to build and be a good program year to year. So as far as Thomas goes, he hasn't competed at all this year. We were waiting until he was 100% healthy from a minor setback earlier in the year. And since he was redshirting, we took our time more than we probably needed to, just to be on the safer side of things. And now he's ready to compete. So a bunch of guys will be going up to the Edinburgh Open this weekend and getting really good competition, and him being one of them.
Hard-hitting question. Can you tell the Bullards apart?
It gets easier when they're both weighing in because I can tell one's bigger than the other. But when they were not, I was having a very difficult time. But right now, this past week, I did, just because I can say, hey, this one looks smaller than the other one. That's easy to do. But when they're both fat and happy, it's a hard thing to do. And I think they play tricks on me too. So I'm gonna get it. I'm getting close. Well, I know right now it's easy to tell Thomas he got a black eye. So
now these guys have been here 4 years. Can you tell the Morrises apart?
Easy. too easy for me. They can't trick me.
Could you do it before this season?
Yes. It took me about a year. It usually takes about a year to figure it out. And then those guys, anytime you say Jamel or Jamal, they both look at you. So they play the games with me too. So it's all good though. I got them figured out. Just
brothers helping each other out in the mat room. That's all it is.
Twins being twins.
Now on to Pittsburgh. NC State will be in road action this weekend as the Wolfpack will be at Pitt this Friday night for a 7 p.m. duel. The duel will be streamed on ACC Network Extra, so we encourage all of our fans to watch. And as always, we'll have live updates of all the action on Twitter at PackWrestle. Pitt is one of the 2 ACC programs with a first-year head coach. Former Panther and 2008 national champion Keith Gavin has taken over his alma mater. And Pat, as you experienced in your first season here, the Panthers might be going through some growing pains as the new staff starts to build that program back up. Pitt's 2-8 on the season, and they, in ACC action, have lost to Virginia Tech and North Carolina. But the Panthers placed third last year at the ACCs. They returned 2 ACC champions and 5 NCAA qualifiers. So you guys have to be ready for some ACC road action.
Yeah, anytime you go through some coaching changes, everybody has that time to get things adjusted. So I don't think it's anything that's going to get in the way from their long-term success right now. And you always, a program like Pittsburgh, you always get really tough, good guys. And we know, that's what you're going to see when you're up there is just some good, tough, hard-nosed wrestling and great atmosphere because you're in an area where people do enjoy watching wrestling, so they get a good fan base, good crowd. So it's one of those we got to be ready to compete, regardless of where their record's at on any given day. They're good enough to compete with anybody. So that's a challenge that we got to be ready for, and looking forward to it, and some good key matchups that are going to matter down the road for ACC and NCAA seeding.
I got a few matchups that I found, but one of those returning ACC champions is at 133, 11th ranked. Dom Forries was the ACC champion a year ago and is a 3-time NCAA qualifier in his final year. Tariq Rilson, he faced one of the nation's best in that Virginia rule, and Forries ranks right up there with Mueller as the top contenders nationally at that weight. Tariq got ranked this week by both Intermat and Flo, but 2 big back-to-back tests here for Tariq.
Absolutely. Going to be a great challenge for him. Back-to-back weekends wrestling really good guys. So that's what it's about, and that's what we need to be tested on and see where we stand mentally. I think it's a challenge that Tariq's going to embrace and be excited for, and he should be. And it's going to be one of those matches where 2 unique styles wrestling, and that's what makes wrestling fun, is to watch guys that have different styles attack each other and see who can come out on top. But I'm excited to see that match for sure, because I think it's going to be a very entertaining one with some very high scoring in it.
And another Wolfpack redshirt freshman will get a shot at a returning ACC champion, as at 157 pounds, Hayden Hidley will take on Pitt's Talib Rahmani. He won the ACC title last year and went on to win 2 matches at the NCAAs. Hayden has back-to-back bonus point wins to start his ACC career, so he isn't going to creep up on many ACC foes anymore.
No, and they're pretty familiar with each other wrestling this offseason and some freestyle, so I think Hayden knows exactly what he needs to do in that kind of match. And you're right, he's a tough opponent that we're going to see in unique style of wrestling. And, anytime you win the ACCs, you're good. So that's a match we definitely got to be ready to compete in and know that it's going to be a tough, hard-fought match with 2 great guys going at each other, and looking forward to that one as well. And Hayden being from Pennsylvania, I know there'll be a lot of PA people up there supporting and watching him, so he'll be excited to be in his home state.
At heavyweight, senior Ryan Solomon is a 3-time NCAA qualifier. He won 3 matches last year at the NCAAs and is ranked number 19 this week. You make your heavyweight decision week by week, but Solomon is definitely one of the bigger and most experienced heavyweight your guys will face this season.
Yeah, he's no question about that, and has a lot of success as well. So for us at NC State right now, where we're at with heavyweight, we need to be tested here and see who's going to step up and take on this challenge. And I think it will say a lot moving forward for the future of what we're going to do. But whoever we throw out there this weekend will be ready to compete, and they'll have their opportunity to make a statement for who wants this starting spot. So looking forward to seeing that weight class as well.
Speaking of the state of Pennsylvania, Pat, NC State's going to be on the other side of the state in the better city of Pittsburgh. That's where I was born and raised. But the Philadelphia Eagles are in the Super Bowl. You have some guys in the room who are all of a sudden, they just claim they're the biggest Eagle fans out there. So who are the biggest fanboys, and what's your prediction on the game?
Yeah, this is very challenging. Being a Giants fan, it's hard to be around people that think like that. So, your typical PA Jersey guys are all supporting them pretty hard, which is fine. It's understandable. But it's hard to go against, the top of the game and the guys that are both at the peak of their career as far as a coach and a quarterback. So it's going to be interesting to see. And I know some of these guys will be happy to see the Eagles win, but I don't know if that's going to be possible to do. It would be a great story, though. If they lose their starting quarterback, that will show some what a true team is about, being able to rebound and move forward when you do lose one of your better players. So that's what makes a good team. So it'll be interesting to see. But I got to pull for the Patriots this weekend.
I think there are some other guys in the mat room pulling for the Patriots, too, just so these Eagle fans might not get all the glory that they think they're going to accomplish.
Definitely.
Again, Wolfpack fans, the Pack will be in ACC road action this weekend as NC State travels to Pitt for a 7 p.m. duel, which will be streamed on ACC Network Extra. And fans, you still have 3 opportunities to catch the Wolfpack in home duel action in the upcoming weeks, as NC State will be returning to Reynolds on Friday, February 9th to take on rival North Carolina. And Pat, now we have not released this information publicly. Maybe we'll break it on next week's podcast as some exclusive content. But we do have a big surprise in store for those in attendance that come to watch the duel against the Tar Heels.
Yeah, working on some really good stuff that's going to be implemented in that dual meet. It'll be probably one of the first times it's ever been done, at least here in Raleigh. And I'm not sure. We'll have to do our homework if it's an ACC thing that's been done before. But it's going to be something that a lot of people are going to want to see and be a part of. I can tell you that.
Giant tease. We're still working on some details, finalizing some meetings here. But maybe next week we can tell our listeners so Reynolds can even be more packed.
Absolutely. That's what we're looking forward to.
Now, I'm still in the alumni night spirit. That's easy for me to say. So for this week's guest, I got another alum who, fortunately for us, is still very involved in the program. Before our home duel against Virginia, I caught up with former Pack wrestler Ryan Tice. Now, Ryan donned the red and white singlet a few years back, but his role today is just as important. He's a writer for the Wolfpacker magazine, writing many articles about Wolfpack wrestling, and he's also the analyst for the ACC Network for our home duel. So, Pat, you've gotten to know Ryan quite well over the last few years. Can you speak to his efforts in the media and helping NC State wrestling get its name out there?
Ryan Tice is, outside of you, he's the voice of Pack wrestling right now. You got the podcast. Tice has got the call, play-by-play.
Competition.
So
but
you got a little competition here. But Tice has had a big impact on our program. He's able to get great stories out there and information that is, really needed for us as far as communicating it with fans, alumni, and even some of the, information that needs to get across the country. And that's what he's been great at for us, is promoting. What I like best about it is he's been here from the start of when I first arrived and, believed in what we were about. And that means a lot to me because he's been a guy that's worked right alongside with us and now has, been there from when we first started to where we're at now. And, he's been there when we were struggling to kind of get things rolling, and now the stories are, hopefully a little easier for him to come up with and get some good content to write about. And I appreciate everything he does because he's been loyal to us and obviously he's first-class type person that you want associated with your program.
Now, you might have joked before, he might have indirectly, he's probably funded a few of your home projects back home.
Oh, definitely. Poor Tice, because he does a lot of this stuff, on his own time and stuff, but I feel bad every time we play poker and I take his money, so I'm going to have to start losing on purpose just to help him out a little bit.
Got to keep that media on your good side. But, Pat, want to thank you for taking the time. You gave us a great recap of Virginia, a good preview for the Pittsburgh duel, and good luck to you guys against the Panthers this weekend.
Appreciate everything you're doing for us.
We're now joined on the podcast by former Wolfpack wrestler Ryan Tice. Ryan, welcome to the podcast. This should be a fun interview, as, of course, you're an alum of the program, but you're still very much involved around the program today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Brian. I appreciate the opportunity, and it's always good to talk wrestling.
A podcaster to a podcaster. This is going to be kind of fun. I've been looking forward to this. You dove into this world a little bit before I did.
That's right, with the Wolfpacker podcast over there at the wolfpacker.com. Got to get the plug in, but it's definitely different being on this side of the table and being the interviewee instead of the interviewer.
I will say, for as much as I plug my podcast, I'm glad you got the first plug in, so I won't feel as bad. But a little background on Ryan. During his NC State days, you came down to NC State after a prep career up in Middleton, Maryland. After a redshirt season in 2006, you wrestled for the Pack from 2007 to 2010. The 07 squad actually won the ACC championship. So what weight were you at, and can you talk a little bit about your NC State wrestling career?
Yeah, I bounced around a little bit. I came in, I was supposed to be a 125-pounder. That's what I ended my high school career at. I broke my leg senior year of high school playing football, so they wouldn't certify me lower. I thought I should have been a 119-pounder, but that's just how it worked out. Came down here, I thought I would be a 25-pounder. I'm pretty short, and I outgrew that very quickly. So I wrestled 133 most of my career. At the end of my career, just because of team need and things like that, I was moved around and wrestled a little 141. Just I was more of a depth guy, so it was kind of wherever they needed me, I was going to wrestle. So that's how it worked. Coming into college, I never placed at states in the state of Maryland, which it is a decent state, but it's not like a Pennsylvania or one of those states that's really, really tough. So a lot of people that I talked to about my college decision were like, you're not going to make the team. You don't have a chance of making the team. So I came down, never had talked to the coach before I got on campus, showed up in his office and said, I want to walk on. They were nice enough to give me a tryout, and I actually lucked out. I was a better weightlifter than I was a wrestler, and the first couple of weeks of tryouts were all weight room workouts, so I was able to impress them enough that they allowed me to stick around for 4 years, and I started far more matches than I ever dreamed of. I thought I would just kind of be a practice dummy on the team and get thrown around, and that definitely happened, but I was able to start a couple matches here and there, and just really enjoyed it.
I was going to say, you have a great sense of humor about it now, but some of your workout partners in that mat room were some tough outs, and practice might not have been your favorite all the time.
Yeah, practice was definitely difficult. It started off my freshman year. I wrestled a lot with Taylor Cummings, who was an ACC champion. I think we both redshirted in our redshirt freshman year. He was an ACC champ the year that we won ACCs, and that 07 team, we actually won the ACCs by the biggest margin of victory ever at that time. And then Darius Little came in after that, and me and him went back and forth and were practice partners for, I would say, the better part of 3 years, and he went on to be an All-American. He's coaching at Lehigh now, coached a national champion last year, so he's been doing some big things. And that was kind of how it went for me. And Darion Caldwell was on that team, so there were a lot of good workout partners, and hopefully I returned the favor and gave them a little bit of a workout.
Sounds like you molded some All-Americans here during your career.
I will definitely not take credit for that, but I did practice with them, so we'll say I did help prepare them a little bit.
Now, I'm counting this as yet another on-location interview for the Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast, as we're sitting up in the stands of Reynolds Coliseum. Ryan, I know it was a lot different back during your career, but looking back now, how was it for you to be able to wrestle in this historic venue?
Oh, it was great. I mean, doing what I do now, I'm a sports writer for the Wolfpacker.com. Have I mentioned that?
Another plug.
Wanted to get that plug in there. But, being a sports buff like I am, a bit of a historian, I mean, I knew what Reynolds Coliseum was when I came down to NC State, and I thought it was great that we got to wrestle here. It looked quite a bit different. It was very dark, very spacious when we were here. The court wasn't shifted down the one end like it is now, but it's been a really, really impressive job that they've done here at Reynolds Coliseum. It's a great venue now. It's the perfect size for these Olympic sports, like wrestling, like women's women's basketball, and all those things. So it's an incredible job they've done. It's perfect for the sport now, and I just wish I could have competed in it the way it is now.
I was going to say, you earned your degree in communications here from NC State. While you were in school finishing up, where did you think that degree was going to lead you?
So I actually started interning with the Wolfpacker when I was a sophomore in college, I believe. And what I did throughout my college career was I kind of freelance wrote for them a little bit. In the summer, I would work not quite full time, but I would work 20, 30 hours a week, however much work they had for me. And then when the school year started again, I would kind of go back to being a freelance writer. When they had something they needed covered or wanted written about, I would cover it. And that was kind of how it went. And then after I graduated, they made a position for me, and that's why I kind of do a little bit of everything. I'm not focused. I've never been completely focused on NC State, although that's what a lot of people know my writing as being on the Wolfpacker.com. A lot of my other jobs are behind the scenes, but I do stuff with 4 different magazines and websites, and I've been there ever since my sophomore year of college.
I was going to say, you plugged it already multiple times, might I add. But you work over at Coleman Publishing, which publishes the Wolfpacker magazine. But you're also involved with another school's magazine. Tell our listeners about that and what your role is with the Wolfpacker covering NC State athletics.
Let me take the second part of that first. With the Wolfpacker, I do a little bit of editing. I do a little bit of writing. I do a little bit of everything, really. Whatever needs to be done, I'll do it. That's kind of how I got my job coming out of college. That's a good piece of advice for anyone that's in college. When you do get that first job, just be willing to do whatever's needed. It really helped me to do videos, podcasts, writing, editing. I did a little bit of everything, and that really helped me as I progressed. And now my main focus is the Wolverine. It's a magazine and website that covers the University of Michigan. We're based out of Durham, so that's our editorial hub, and everything our guys right up there come through Durham, and we lay out the magazines. I kind of run the editorial side of things, manage the guys a little bit. So it's a lot of different stuff I'm doing, stuff I probably never imagined I would be doing when I was in college, but it's a great job. I never I never have the same day twice, really, so that's something I really enjoy. And then we've got a couple other magazines, Blue and Gold Illustrated covering Notre Dame, and Cavalier Corner, a magazine that covers Virginia. So I do a lot of different things, but I really like it. And just to get back to the Wolfpacker real quickly, I will say, since this is a great plug for it, I've been trying to write more and more wrestling stuff on the Wolfpacker.com, so anyone that's listening and is a wrestling fan, please make sure you check that out. The more that people read it, and Brian, I know you know from running GoPack and the analytics stuff there, the more that people read it, the more that your bosses will allow you to do more of something. So if people want to see more NC State wrestling coverage on the Wolfpacker.com, make sure you read what's up there. There's a lot of power in your clicks, and I don't know if people are always aware of that.
I was going to say, that's a great point. I always encourage people to go to GoPack. I very much encourage people to subscribe to this podcast, but you provided a lot of great coverage for the NC State wrestling team for the Wolfpacker, as you've said, and you got to see quite a bit of action, wrote many articles. How impressed are you with the growth of the program after the last few years, especially with NC State being ranked in the top 10 every week for the last 3 seasons?
Yeah, it's really, really impressive. I mean, when I was on the team, you mentioned we won the ACC title, and we were a good ACC team back then, but we weren't accomplishing the things like they're doing now. We had a national champion, Darion Caldwell, who's doing big things with Bellator fighting now, but we never had. I mean, you look at this team now, and they've got 5 guys. Half the starting lineup in the top 3 in the country is so impressive. And you look at what Pat and his staff have done. Year one, I believe they were 64th in the country at NCAAs in year one, and now they've ripped off 4 straight top 20 finishes. Only the second string like that in school history. They had a 5-year streak under Guzzo, but it's really impressive what they've done. Having the guys that they do. I mean, I don't know if you're going to get into this later, but covering Nick was really one of the highlights of my career because he was so dominant. Dominant's really the best word I can think of. He was so good. 3-time ACC Wrestler of the Year, 2-time champ. And now you see the things he's doing on the national stage, and he's always, anytime I call him up to do an article, he always is willing to do an interview. So I appreciate that. And all the guys at NC State Wrestling have been very similar to that. And there's some great stories on this year's team with Kevin Jack, what he's done throughout his career. Pete Renda redshirting last year to kind of gear up for this big year he's having. Michael Macchiavello. There's not many guys who have been from the state of North Carolina that have risen to the heights that he has. So, you can go on and on. Hayden Hidley being a redshirt freshman, doing the things he's done, beating a national finalist from last year. So it's just covering the wrestling team has provided several highlights of my career, and I'm really looking forward to going back to NCAA tournament one more time this year in March and covering what they'll do out there this season in Cleveland.
I was going to say, great SID has helped you get many of these stories, but I digress. So also with the Wolfpacker, you've gotten to jump into this exciting world of podcasting yourself. For our fans that might not listen to the Wolfpacker podcast, can you describe it some, and what is your involvement with it?
Yeah, we've started doing a weekly podcast at Amedio's, the great Italian restaurant over on Western Boulevard.
Another plug.
Hey, they've been getting a lot of wrestling plugs. When you were probably watching on Flow when they threw the plug out because you weren't over there. Flow Wrestling threw a plug out for Amedio's because there was such a big crowd there. But we do a weekly podcast on Tuesdays at Amedio's, during lunchtime, have former players, current coaches, things like that. And we do plenty of other podcasts, when there's breaking news or something like that pops up. Matt Carter and JC Zemble, my coworkers, do podcasts previewing every football game and periodically throughout basketball season when there's time for things to talk about. So, it's called the Wolfpacker Podcast. It's out there wherever you get podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher. I have an app on my phone called Podcast Addict, and that's where I like that app because you can download podcasts and listen to them without using data on your phone. I'm cheap like that, but I listen to this one, obviously, and plenty more on that. So, the Wolfpacker Podcast, it's a great NC State podcast. We've had a ton of great guests on it. So I do encourage everyone to check it out. It's easy to find, and if you're having trouble, thewolfpacker.com, it shouldn't take too much looking to find it on there.
Some good cross promotion here. I just hope that you give the Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast a shout out someday. We're still waiting for our first one. But
I gave when Pat came on the Amedio's podcast, we plugged it at least once or twice.
You did plug it, and you gave some great facts that I hooked you up with, so we appreciate that.
I always use your facts, Brian. It's good to have a fellow stat head following wrestling and coming up with things like that.
Very much a stat geek I am. But home events, you actually started out, as I like to call it, you were our hype man. You did PA for our home duels when I first became the Wrestling SID. But now you've transitioned over, and you're the analyst for all of our home duels when we're on the ACC Network Extra. How did you become involved with that, and how much fun are you having getting to experience being an announcer?
It's a lot of fun, actually. I'm having more fun than I thought I would while doing it. You mentioned the hype man. That was something I was not comfortable doing, and to be candid, I just didn't feel that played to my strengths.
Can you give us the one call that you were known for, though?
2. Is that the one you had in mind?
Yes, I heard the 2-point takedown many a times. We always appreciated it.
It became so famous we had to get foam 2 fingers printed up. No, I won't take credit for that. But the PA was just not my cup of tea, let's say. I always thought doing what I'm doing now, analyzing on matches would fit my strengths better. So I think they were looking for one, and I asked if they would find someone that could cover the PA, so I wasn't leaving anyone high and dry, and transitioned over. And I think this is year 2 doing it, because I didn't do it the year they were at the Holzhauser building. So But I've been having a lot of fun. I feel like I'm getting better at it each match. I don't get a ton of reps, and that's always what you need to get better. But hopefully NC State fans and other fans from other schools have been enjoying what they've heard.
And some paychecks must have been coming in for this because you now wear suits to our duels. So I guess it set you up quite well there.
Just part of the gig, Brian. Just part of the gig.
And I got to say, congratulations in order. A few months overdue. You recently got married, actually last year, but you were finally able to take that honeymoon in January. Where did you and the wife go, and how was it?
Yeah, we went to St. Martin, which was really interesting, obviously with the hurricane that came through down there. It was just eye-opening. Eye-opening is the way I would describe it. The people down there, I think it's no secret that area is so reliant on tourism. And the people we met down there were, number one, kind of surprised when they heard we were from America and we still came down. And number two, they were so thankful we were there, which was really cool. I mean, everyone was shaking our hands, telling us thank you. I've just never experienced that before. And it's obviously the hurricane hit so hard down there. The island is, I don't think I'm being I don't think I'm exaggerating when I'm saying the island was devastated. It's going to take years for it to rebuild. But we felt when we saw that our hotel was fine, that we had the accommodations at, because we've had this plan for a long time. When we found out that was fine, when we found out the airport was open, which was a bit of a misleading thing, they just really had tents outside of the airport. You don't go inside of the airport, really. We thought it would be good for us to go anyway and do what we could to help down there. I mean, that people I've talked to, and maybe this is a bit of a center-focused thing to say, but I don't know what I could do to help the people of St. Martin more than going there and spending money. So that's what we did. We had a great time, spent a lot of money, and enjoyed ourselves. And it was a really cool time, a beautiful place, and I would highly recommend it.
Ryan, I really appreciate you stopping by and letting us catch up with you. Plug how our fans can follow you on social media for more Wolfpack wrestling coverage that you do.
Yeah, I don't tweet a ton during matches. I'm a little tied up doing the broadcast, but you can follow me on Twitter at Ryan Tice, spelled just like it sounds, RyanTice. You can also follow the Wolfpacker on Twitter at the Wolfpacker. We got real imaginative with those Twitter handles, but that's the best way to do it. Check out thewolfpacker.com, the Wolfpacker podcast. We cover everything that NC State fans would be interested in. And like I said before, if people want to see more NC State wrestling coverage, I'm willing to do it. Just read what I post, and that's going to be the avenue to getting more on the website. That's when I can go to my boss and say, look, people are reading this. Let's do some more. I will be at the ACC championships. I think that's the third year in a row I've covered them
this year too.
Yeah, it's right down the street in Chapel Hill, so nice and easy, especially for me living in Durham. And I'll be going to the NCAA championships as well. I just requested my media credential and booked my flight and hotel and all of that, so I will be there in Cleveland. I don't know the dates off the top of my head. Do you?
The middle of March.
Yeah, I was going to say the 15th or something like that, I think. So I'm really looking forward to that, and we'll see if this NC State Wolfpack team can come home with a trophy. I know that's been the goal, and with 5 guys, half the lineup ranked in the top 3 nationally, if they perform up to those standards, I think they can do it.
It's certainly going to be a fun time as we get here into ACC and NCAA action, but I want to thank everybody for listening today. This is your Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast covering all things NC State wrestling. Until next time, Wolfpack wrestling fans, go Pack!
The Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast is produced by the Mat Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, go to mattalkonline.com.